One more.
Okay. All right. It's already on. Okay, and we are on Zoom as well. All right. We'll just we're waiting for people to come in, and just real quickly, that clock up there is about an hour fast. So rely on your own phones and your own clocks, because that was throwing me off. It was 5 o'clock. I looked up, I saw that it was 6 o'clock, and I was like, where is everybody? Then I looked down on my phone and, oh, it's 5 o'clock. So if you're on Zoom and if you wish to speak during the public comment portion, you could go ahead and raise your hand now so we know who wishes to speak. And we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming out. My name is Zeb Navarro. I'm the city clerk for the city of Oceanside. And we started our redistricting process at the Wednesday council meeting during the public hearing. And this is our first community meeting, one of 4 community meetings that we're going to do. And we have 3 more public hearings at the council, including a final meeting where the council will finalize the new district maps. Just real quickly, we do have Spanish translation services if anyone wishes to have any translation services, and I'll introduce Jesus here and he'll tell you more about it.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jesus Villaseñor. I'm an interpreter. We're providing services, interpretation services into Spanish and other languages as provided. Muy buenas noches, soy Jesús Villaseñor de Orange County Translation and Interpretation Services. Estamos aquí para servirles con servicios de interpretación en español y otros idiomas según sea necesario. Muchas gracias.
So if anyone requires translation services, please see Jesus and his staff on the table over there. So we're going to start our process right now with our consultant, Jane Hood, and she's going to go over a lot about the processes of what is redistricting, why are we doing it, and then we're going to start taking public input, public feedback. We do have information on the back table and the front table here in English and Spanish, as well as my business card is in the back. We have extra masks, hand sanitizers, and we also have the restrooms are open in the hallway outside. So if anyone has any questions, there's also community of interest forms you could fill out. And once Jane is finished, we'll talk about how you could also provide us a little bit more input as well electronically, and also about our redistricting maps on our website. So I'll toss it over to Jane Hood of Q2 Data and Research. Am I saying that right?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining for this workshop tonight. My name is Jane Hood, and I'm here collaborating with the City of Oceanside on behalf of Q2 Data and Research. We're the demography firm who is helping you guys go through redistricting. And so this, as was just mentioned, is the first of 4 community workshops. So thanks for coming out, and we look forward to hearing from you. This process is super important to have community and public input in. So we really thank you for being here, and thank you in advance for participating and letting us know your thoughts on the process. So again, please feel free to invite anyone to join a future workshop if you know someone who's not here tonight. But with that, I'll keep it brief on my slides. And if you would like more information, there is a recording of my colleague Karen McDonald going through a pretty in-depth training on redistricting at the last council meeting, and that's on the redistricting website. So you can take a look at that, but I'll just go over a few things to sort of introduce people to the process. And let me share my screen. So hopefully everyone can see that. And yeah, so tonight is all about public input and specifically looking to hear about communities of interest, which we'll go into what that is and what that means in a little bit. So We'll just go over a little bit of an introduction and background, as well as the criteria for redistricting. So what the council has to keep in mind as they redistrict. We'll talk about communities of interest and then how to get involved, the most important piece, as well as the timeline, what are the next steps, and how you can stay involved throughout the process. So for anyone who doesn't know, the city of Oceanside transitioned from an at-large to a by-district election system in 2017. And so now you have 4 city council districts where members of the city council have to live in their specific district that they represent. And obviously you, the voters, get to elect the city council member for your district. And so every 10 years, we do have to redistrict to make sure that everything is in compliance with state and federal law, as well as the new census data. So we had the census in 2020, that data came out in 2021, and now we have to make sure that the districts are equal. So that's the first criteria here, which is equal population. The second one is the Federal Voting Rights Act. The third one is contiguity, which means the districts have to all be in one piece. They can't be scattered throughout the city. And then the fourth one, which is really what we're here to talk more about tonight, and we'll go into a little bit of detail on, is respecting local neighborhoods and communities of interest. And so communities of interest are pretty open to what you, the community, define it as. But we do note that communities of interest, or COIs, cannot include relationships with political parties, incumbents, or candidates. So this is not about, a political party, it's about your community. The fifth criteria that we're looking at is boundaries that need to be easily identifiable and understandable by residents. So following major streets, following rivers, or other things like that that make sense. And then finally, we have compactness, which means, trying to make sure that these districts are all together and not spread out throughout the city. And then, as I mentioned, we are not here to favor or discriminate against political parties. So this is a nonpartisan process. So again, I know that's a lot of information, and that's gone into a lot more detail at the last council hearing if you want to hear more about any of these. Also happy to answer a question if you do have some later on. So just to go over that first piece, so about equal population. We have what's called an ideal population for each of the districts. So that's the total population divided by the number of districts. And so for Oceanside, the total population from the 2020 census is 174,578. And we divide that by 4. And then we want to roughly have around 43,645 people in each district. Here are your current boundaries, and we'll just go over this for a minute, but basically what you have here is an analysis of how far above or below the current district boundaries are with that new census data. So you'll see a percentage below, which says how far above or below the percent deviation is from the ideal population. So we have District 1 here in blue, and that's a little bit underpopulated. We also have 3, which is a little bit overpopulated at 4.5%, and then 4 and 2 are pretty close right now to that ideal population. We're looking to stay within plus or minus 5% to hit that first criterion. And so now, once we've talked about equal population, really what we want to spend some time talking about tonight and hearing from you all is where your local neighborhoods and communities of interest are. And so obviously neighborhoods are specific to the city that they're in. So sometimes cities have an understanding of where all the neighborhoods are, but usually the people who live there have a better understanding of, what the communities look like, where they start, where they end, what brings them together. And so for redistricting, we look for communities of interest, which are, communities of residents who share similar interests, basically. Again, very open-ended, but really, we're just looking to hear from you about what matters to your community and what brings you together. And it's really up to you all who live there to identify that for us and let us know. So just some examples to get you started thinking about what your community of interest might be. You could be brought together over economic issues, such as maybe common employment, you all work for the same job, or, you know, looking for more economic opportunities in your neighborhood. Perhaps you want to bring in some new businesses to the area, things like that. You could also be brought together around social interests. So perhaps everyone in your neighborhood, you know, shares the same school, and that's something that you all are organizing around and interested in, and that brings you together. Culture is also a big one. So perhaps everyone in your neighborhood shares a similar language or cultural background, shares a cultural resource center, has events together, things like that. Could definitely bring your community of interest together, as well as parks in the area or transit if you're looking at better roads or better public transportation opportunities, things like that. So obviously there's tons of different things that could be your community of interest, and that's why we want to hear from you about what matters to you and what's bringing your, what issues are bringing your area together. So we'll obviously have an opportunity for you to provide input on your community of interest tonight. And so we'll ask you sort of the two questions: what bonds your community? Just like I said, is it a school? Is it a park? What's your commonality? And then where is your community located in the city? So this is super important for myself, the demographer, to be able to then take your input and put it on a map. So we need to know what street it starts at. Maybe on the north side, it's at A Street, for example, and then south, it's at, you know, Avenue X. And on the east, we have, you know, this park, and on the north, we have another school or something like that. So as specific as you can be about where that community is located, that's really helpful to us. And so there are a few ways to provide this. Obviously, you can do that tonight, just in testimony, in public comment. You can also check out our website and look at the state's community of interest tool, where you can map your community and then submit it to the city. And there are instructions about how to do that online. It's a free software anywhere you can get on the internet. And you could also create a paper map if you want to just draw it out, take a picture of it, and email that in, or mail that in, or drop it off. Really, we'll take anything, whatever works for you. But we do ask, please, to submit your community of interests by February 10th, excuse me, to be considered in the draft map process. So it's always good to have that before we start drawing those maps, so that we can take everything into account. Just really quickly to plug, you know, obviously why it's important to participate. I'm sure you know because you're here tonight, but we want to make sure that you give your community a voice, so that it has equal access to the political process. Really, communities of interest are all about gaining representation for the community that you're a part of. It's also a great way to encourage your other members of the community to get registered, to participate in the political process, and ultimately, you know, elect a candidate that represents you. Excuse me. As I mentioned, the city has an online access tool. So, a moment, please. I'm just going to take a sip. The city has made a free online mapping tool where you can actually draw your own districts and submit those to the city to be considered for the process. There is a user guide on there that shows you how to use the tool, but there's also a help button if you do need any help using the tool at any point. So feel free to check that out and draw your own districts and submit them. Excuse me. So as I mentioned, there are many different ways to get involved. You can participate in a hearing, invite other people to show up to these workshops. You can submit an email. You can give us a call. And then you can also draw your own district maps for consideration, which this link is on the main redistricting website, where you can get all this information online. So thank you in advance for participating. And we look forward to hearing from you tonight or in the future. And just at the end, just want to review the timeline. So here we are on Wednesday, January 19th, and this is our first community outreach meeting. But we have a few more coming up this Saturday and then next Wednesday. Our next hearing at council will be on February 9th, and then February 23rd. And then finally, the last one will be March 9th. So hopefully you can participate in some or all of these meetings and give us input throughout the process. So with that, I will stop talking and turn it over to you all who are the experts on Oceanside and can let us know where those communities are and what your input is on the redistricting process. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. I just have two questions real quick before we start. One, are there any maps that have already been drawn? Any
Yes, thank you for that question. We actually just received our first map today, and I haven't been able to look at it yet, but someone has taken the time to submit one map on the website so far. Okay,
so tonight we're not considering any draft maps. We're not looking at any maps. We're just collecting input, correct?
Exactly. So right now, thank you for that question. This is what's called the sort of pre-draft meetings. So we want to get the input from the community before council even starts drawing maps. Of course, you can take a look at the online tool and draw a map if you'd like, but right now, no lines have been drawn, and we're really at the very beginning of this process. So it's super useful to hear from everyone at this time.
And a follow-up question to that, Jane. We are not erasing our maps and starting fresh and creating new districts and new boundaries, correct?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. It's typically redistricting is about adjusting your current boundaries based on the new census data and making sure that you're keeping together communities of interest that may have been split before, or are new communities of interest, let's say, since you've last done this process. So it's really up to the council how to interpret that, but in general, it's really about equalizing that population and making sure you're in line with all of the other criteria.
Perfect. So I just wanted to clear that up because those were two of the major questions I got today by phone. So I just wanted to clear that up before we start the community input portion of our program. Again, if you just joined us via Zoom and wish to provide any public input, please raise your hand so we know that you would like to provide some feedback and input in the redistricting process. So just use the raise hand feature on Zoom. I believe if you hover your mouse over the bottom, you'll see reactions, I believe. And then, Thomas, can you do that for me? Yeah, there's something that says reactions at the bottom. Click on it, and there should be something that says raise hand. And that's how you raise your hand, and that's how we're going to know that you want to talk on Zoom. And last resort would be just to wave your hands around when we go see you up on Zoom. But what we're going to do first is we're going to go and take input from the people that are here. You did come out tonight, and some of you may need to leave or have childcare issues or elder care issues. So we want to go and get the input from the people here first. We're going to do 3 minutes of public input, but just to make sure that this process runs smoothly. I saw the video of the last districting process, and all I got to say is shame. So we're going to be respectful tonight. Everyone's going to behave. There will be no catcalling from the audience, no attacking individuals at all. This is Oceanside, and I know we could do a lot better than what I saw in the last video. And I'm knowing the people here, I know I could trust you guys, and knowing the people on Zoom, I know I could trust you all. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scooch this lectern so you can have, so you can see the screen here, and you'll have 3 minutes. I'll give you a 1 minute warning, and once you see that, just know that you could just wrap up your comments, and then we'll move on to the next individual. And there's no sign-in sheet, there's no register to speak, just, you could start a line if you want. And again, if you just came in and wish to have Spanish translation services, Jesus Villaseñor over there with his staff, and they'll provide translation services as well. All right, so I'm just going to move the lectern over here. So in case Jane pops up, and if you have any questions, you could ask her that or make your public comments known. All right, so with that, I'll open it up to public comments. So feel free to come on up, and if you want, you could even start a line.
And just want to note really quickly, I've shared my screen with a map of Oceanside. So as you're talking, I'll try and, zoom in to show a particular place, or if anything like that comes up and that's helpful, I'll try and keep up with your comments so you can see that on the map.
Okay, so come on up, and when you come on up, say your name and address, if you're comfortable sharing that, but definitely your first and last name. Yes, Victor. Everybody gets to do it once. 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 Oh, we already did the presentation. Yeah, it's done. This is now the time for public input on the communities of interest. If you have any comments, you could say the whole process is baloney. You could say I hate at-large elections, or I hate at-large elections. I love at-large elections. But everybody gets to speak only once. This is the public input portion of our agenda right now. Okay, so come on up and provide some input, and we'd love to hear from you. You guys are so comfortable in your seats. So just right here. Yeah, and then just say your first and last name, and then you can take your photo out.
Okay, my name is Juan, pronouns are they, them, theirs. Oceanside resident for many, many years. I think that I was looking at the map, and I think the map, doesn't need that many changes. I think that District 1, there's a socioeconomic, two socioeconomic communities that are shared. They share languages, they share culture, which is Center Street area and Pozole area. I think that definitely could be kept together as it is. I think District 1 needs more people added, I believe. Wait, District 1. Yeah. So possibly what I'm thinking, I don't know, like as long as I think that these two communities stay together, that should be good. District 2, Los Arbolitos area in Libby, they also share a socioeconomic communities. They also share language, and they also share culture. I think the thing that could be added to District 2, because I think it's lacking people right now, is the Cesar Chavez middle school area. There's a lot of students who also live in District 2 that I guess venture off a little bit into District 4. I think that's what it is. So I think that would be, appropriate to have, just to kind of like to get the numbers even. And then I have District 3 would be the. Give me a second. I wrote my notes. I think that is it. Now is it? At this moment, that's the only thing that I have. Obviously, I think I'm going to need more information as we go on. But more than anything, I think what I want to point out is that we keep those communities together, which is Center Street and Pozole together, Libby Lake, and Los Arbolitos. Possibly add Cesar Chavez to that District 2. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come up and provide some input? Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jimmy Figueroa. I was born and raised in Oceanside. I currently live on the corner of Rancho del Oro and Vista Way, in those condos in the Vista Village condominiums. But I have lived throughout the different places of Oceanside throughout my life. Kind of to echo what Juan has said, in the beginning, the goal of this was to increase and to have cultural diversity representation on our council. Oceanside, historically, we haven't had that representation in our city to a large degree, and it's been non-existent. At times, we've had one council member, but we haven't been able to, our city council has not reflected our city's diversity historically. District 1 and District 2 were created to hopefully enhance that. And so for me, to echo what Juan said, keeping Center Street in the Pozola area is very important, but also along with the Greenbrier and Apple communities, Canyon communities, those are all, a lot of those kids attend the same schools. With District 2, it's very important that we keep the Mid-Valley, Los Arbolitos, Libby Lake, the Valley, the Deep Valley area, all the way from Vandergrift, North River Road, Los Arbolitos, Douglas, Calle Montecito, all those neighborhoods together. Again, a lot of those kids do attend Chavez Middle School. That's the middle school that they go to. And that is the community near Cesar Chavez, which is south, right before getting to 76. So south of Douglas, south of North River Road, possibly incorporating that part of District 4 into District 2. So having District 2 run up to the 76. And then with that being said, there's not much that, for me, that we need to do. We have 2 districts that are above the 43,645 mark, which is District 3 and District 4. You pull a little into those to get the numbers for District 1. Thank you.
Anybody else like to make some comment? We could go to Zoom, and then if anybody has the courage or develop the courage, we could come back to the in-person comments. All right. So let me make sure the people on Zoom heard that. All right, we're gonna move to our participants on Zoom. Again, if you would like to give some public comment, just simply raise your hand. Just go to the bottom of your screen, look for reactions, click on reactions, click on raise hand, and that way we know that you wish to speak. So there is, who will we, Shelly? Shelly, let's go with Shelly. We're gonna ask you to unmute yourself, and then you can go ahead and provide your public input, and I'll let you know when your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Shelley Parker. I live in District 2, and I'm happy to hear about the young people in my district. I actually happen to be a senior citizen and live in a senior mobile home park, and that is my community of interest. I'm happy to see that we're pretty close to what we need to be. I live between El Camino, Mission, and Douglas, and in Rancho San Luis Rey. And I would like to make sure that that community stays together. We are very unique in that we are covered under 16B, rent control for all the mobile home parks. And we, as a voice for seniors, we would like to be together so that our needs and our vote is not diluted. So I'm glad we're having these public comments, and I thank you very much. And it's kind of nice to see that Oceanside grew a little bit since the last time we had these meetings. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shelley, for your comments. And now we'll go to Sandy Beal, to be followed by Sherry Mackin.
Hello, my name is Sandy Beal. Let's see. Okay. Hello, my name is Sandy Beal, and I'm also in Rancho San Luis Rey Mobile Home Park, like Shelley. And I'm just calling, I'm just here to say how important it is to keep all of the mobile home parks and the seniors together. Most of the mobile home parks that are in District 2 are 55 and over parks, and they're parks that so we really need that recognition. We need to keep those people together. We need to keep the mobile home parks together. So thank you so much. That's really all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Sandy. And we'll move on to Sherry Mackin, and then we'll go back to the Zoom to see if anybody else has raised their hands. So Sherry, take it away.
Good evening. I did submit comments through the form option on the website, Zeb, and I'd sure like to make sure those are included in comments, please. I'd like to say that it's very unfortunate last year's map drawing, as there were quite a bit of political undertones to the whole drawing of that map. And as a South Oceanside resident, I'm highly, and was highly discouraged, as many people in South Oceanside, that for some reason we kind of ended up with leftovers and not much of our community of interest. We ended up with Ocean Hills a lot. Someone said our community of interest, I think it was Jimmy Figueroa, was Highway 78. That's never been our community of interest. Our community of interest has been the coast, always has been. We identify with coastal communities. What we don't have in common with what we were given in District 3 was we don't have gated communities. We do not have HOAs. We do not live in planned communities. We do not have large areas of open space like Light Calaveras and, sprawling areas. We do not have coastal communities. Residents do not border on other cities, such as all kids that live on College, east of College, go to Vista schools. All of our children in this coastal area go to South Oceanside Elementary School, Jefferson Middle School, Oceanside High School, Lincoln Middle School, and none of the children in Seaside share our community at all. So this year, I'd like to look at really making this fair for District 3. We were kind of just given the leftovers, and we have over the numbers. Let's shift it around a bit and see if we can't be more fair and more representative of our communities of interest. This is not about, I completely support keeping the East Side and Crown Heights, these neighborhoods together, heck yes. But that back area of Oceanside that identifies with Vista and Highway 78, that isn't us. And it's absolutely not fair that we would have representation that does not understand that we park our cars on the streets where thieves come and break into it. They don't understand that we have a huge homeless problem. And there's a lot more to this. And I hope to attend the other meetings and make sure to advocate for a new map. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Let's see if anybody else in the Zoom room has their hands up. And again, if you wish to provide some public input, just use the reactions feature and click on raise hand. And we are trying to go back. Hey, that's a big giant me on the screen right now. There goes half the audience. Oh, and we have Roger Davenport has his hand raised. So we'll toss it over to Roger.
Hi, I think Roger Davenport, I live in District 1 here in Loma Alta. And I think what I heard Sherry Mackin saying makes sense to me too, that basically everything west of the 5, if you just took it out of 3 and put it in 1, would be much closer to being with like-minded community. So that would be a suggestion I would want to consider. I don't know what the population of that little sliver is, but since we're trying to narrow down 3 and increase 1, that might be a good way to do it. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Roger. And we'll see if anybody else on Zoom. Again, if you wish to provide public input, scroll down near the bottom of your screen. If you're using Zoom, look for reactions, click on reactions, and then click on raise hand. Linda Slater. We're going to ask you to unmute.
Hi, yeah, I live in Oceana, which is in District 1. And the Oceanas were all built with similar house styles, the same developer, I understand. We started building them in the 60s and they were completed by the 80s. And I'm noticing that 3 of the major Oceanas, the original one, the Oceana South, and the Oceana East are in District 1, but there's 4 other Oceanas. They're called the Oceana Missions, and they're on Old Grove. And so I would suggest, since you need to expand District 1, that you consider including all of the Oceanas, because we have very similar needs. We own our homes mostly. We have, but you know, people, it's tough living on a fixed income. So we have economic issues, transportation. Once you reach a certain age, you know, you can't drive anymore. So I think there's a good justification to expand Unit 1 over to Old Grove in order to include the Oceana Missions. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll see if anybody else has their raised hands. Again, if you would wish to make a public comment, click on reactions at the bottom and then click on raise hand. And I'm seeing none at the moment. We'll check back again later on. I'll just see if anybody here in the community room would like to make a comment. Come on down. And I'll take a break from being a low rent Larry King and have you come on down.
Low rent, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Okay, I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but so I'll keep it brief. My name is Amber Newman. I live in Fire Mountain. I just want to say that I definitely agree with some of the comments that have been made. Disagree with some of the others, but obviously we know that we have a discrepancy and we definitely have an opportunity to change things. The last time we did districting, myself and others advocated for keeping the coastline together, and I still think that that would have been a smart move. When it comes to redrafting some of this, I think that Fire Mountain should be included in a lot of the ideas of keeping in line with South O, in the sense that our kids go to the same schools. We use a lot of the same thoroughfares to enter and exit our neighborhoods. We don't have the HOAs. We don't have gated communities. As was referenced earlier, you know, we don't have a lot of the things that people that live in the more eastern side of our district experience. So we don't have the same experiences in our day-to-day lives, you know, so we don't have the same shared experiences. So I think that we really need to find a balance in there. So I do think that we should take this as an opportunity, knowing that District 1 has about a 4,000 person shortfall in its population. We should take this as an opportunity to balance that with some of our more rural areas, or well, it's not really necessarily rural, but rurally designed. I think we should take that as an opportunity to incorporate some of our coastal and more casually designed areas, and maybe split that from some of our more formally designed areas and incorporate those accordingly. So we'll see how this plays out, but I think we have an opportunity for some improvement here.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else? I'm just going to pull a word from Arlene Hammerschmidt, rural-ish Fire Mountain. All right. Oh, I see we have 2 raised hands. So Carolyn raised hers first, and then we'll follow that with Lisa Hamilton. So Carolyn, you're on. Carolyn?
All right, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, cool. I live in District 1, what we consider seaside area, and we're coastal. So I would like to see our coastal communities, which have similar interests in the coastal zone, somehow put together with South Oceanside, Seaside, and those communities that are basically west of the 5. We're plus the Fire Mountain and Loma Alta area. I mean, Loma Alta and Fire Mountain areas were all the older neighborhoods, and we have coastal influence, and a lot of our development that's happening is happening in our older neighborhoods. And those are a lot of interest. Our schools are the same. We have kids in our Seaside area that go to South Oceanside schools. So there's a lot of community interest and crossovers in those neighborhoods. So I also sent in communication via email as well. But I would really love to see our coastal communities as community of interest, because there's a lot of similar interests happening right now in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And we did get your communication, Carolyn. All right, Lisa Hamilton has her hand raised. So we'll go to Lisa Hamilton. Lisa, are you there? Oh, Lisa, you don't have a microphone, or your microphone is not working. We don't see a microphone icon on your account there, Lisa. Sherry?
Going up to Sherry unless you can configure her microphone on her computer.
Lisa, if you want, you could try to reconfigure your microphone on your computer. And we could check back with you later. Anybody else here would like to speak here in the community rooms?
Lisa, if you can hear me, go to the bottom left of your screen and you should see a microphone icon. Hit the arrow next to it, and it should give you an option of what microphones are on your computer.
Anybody else here in the community rooms want to speak? Sherry, I see that you have your hand raised. Whoop. Do you want to make additional comments? We're trying to keep it at one comment per person, just to be equitable. But no one's really speaking tonight. So do you have
Zeb?
Yeah, do you have
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any way you can open the chat section for people that are having a hard time getting on with a microphone or something? They might be able to give input there.
We try not to have the chat function operating on the city's Zoom accounts. I don't think the city's Zoom accounts have the option for chat because there could be expletives, other things that happen in there.
Oh, with this group, I don't think so. But
But
right,
I don't
thanks
think that the chat is configured for this meeting.
yeah, well, thank you.
It is not, unfortunately. So Lisa, unfortunately, oh, Lisa, I see a microphone next to your name. So I think we got you. This is very exciting and riveting for the people watching.
You should be getting prompted.
You should get a prompt to unmute yourself. There you go. We're in business, Lisa. You're on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
You may want to turn down the volume on your computer because we're getting some feedback.
Okay, I would really like to say that I think that okay, what I'd like to say is that I think that the area in District 3 should be joined to District 1. We have similar interests. I would like to have Fire Mountain added, but I am especially interested in having the area west of I-5 added to District 1. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And let's see if anybody else has their hands raised in Zoom. Again, to raise your hand, click on reactions and then click on raise hand. Roger, did you have a question?
Yes. Oops. Yes, I'm here. Yeah, I just had a general question. I haven't heard addressed. Why do we only have 4 districts? Why couldn't we go to 6 districts? Seems like as the largest city in northern the county, we should be able to have more representation by having more districts. That's all.
According to our assistant city clerk, the charter for the city states that we have 5 seats on the council, with 4 of those seats being district council members and 1 of those seats being an at-large mayor. So if we wanted to increase the seats, that would be a vote of the people and a change in the charter, I believe. Anyone from the city attorney's office here, or unlicensed city attorneys? No? Okay. All right, thank you for that question. Any other hands on Zoom? Any questions here in the audience, or people who have questions about the redistricting or wish to make additional comments? Yes, Jimmy.
Can you guys show us what that would look like? I worked on the map last night. It wasn't as user friendly as I was hoping it would be. But can we take a look at what that would look like as far as you get 39 to 43 by including the coast and firehouse district 1? What would that look like?
Jane, are you there? Oh,
Yes, yeah.
the question was, is there like an interactive feature on your end where we could see what the population would look like if we added a portion of one district to another district? Or would that be something more appropriate for a later community meeting?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. Can you see the redistricting tool? Did that change the screen? Or do you still see my?
I still see the map that features the deviation.
Share a different screen.
Yeah.
And show you what that looks like. So here is the Oceanside redistricting tool, which is on the redistricting website. You can find it right here at the top. There's a link to draw your own example map for consideration. Takes you here. And there's a user guide, as I mentioned. I'm going to skip that for now. Basically, just to give you a little tour of it, you can make an account, or you can just log on as a guest and give it a title. And then you'll basically be in a map that looks just like what I was showing you, except for it doesn't cost $10,000, which is the software that I use. And here you'll see Oceanside, and you can draw your own plan here. And once you have, added some area to a district, let's say you want to make a district over here, you can, make your change to a district, give it a title. And then once you've done that, you can look at the data in there. So you can pop that up and look at the statistics panel, and then submit it once you've drawn one district or all 4 districts that you're happy with. And so you can mess around with whatever you'd like to see there. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Great.
The question is, what is the population of coastal South Oceanside? I don't know if you have that information with you right now.
I do not have that information with me right now, but can look into it, and you can also look into it yourself if you want to on this tool at a later time.
We'll get that information for you, Terry.
Is there any way that the current map could be uploaded to the software and possibly us work off of it?
The question was, is there a possibility for the current district map to be uploaded to the software and for members of the public to adjust the boundaries based on the current district maps?
Thank you so much for that question. Yeah, so once you are in the software, you can go to, at the top, it says view layers, click on here, and then you can add the district map, which is your current boundaries. And once the council draws draft maps, they will also be in here, so you can look at them there. And you'll see the district that I drew in pink is just on top of the current boundaries. So you can, draw using those or any of the other layers once we have those.
Thank you. So there is something available on the website. And then Thomas just reminded me about office hours. So we are going to have office hours with the demographers. So if you have any additional questions or what ifs or scenarios or you have a great idea you would wish to share, there's going to be some office hours that are going to be, I believe, virtual with Jane. So if you want to work with our demographer, if you want to provide some input or even work on building districts with her, those will be part of the office hours that we're going to have available. We're just coming up with the different times that she's going to be available with her schedule as well as staff schedule. And we're going to make that very well known, and we're going to promote that. And I encourage everybody to attend those and share that information with your friends and neighbors as well.
I just want to quickly point out, if you can't attend those or you just have one quick question, you can click on the help button, and here is the user guide and then also contact support. So that'll go right to our technical support team, and we check that all the time, so we can get back to you on any questions you might have using the tool.
I thought I saw a hand up in the Zoom. I believe our mayor had her hand up. Esther, did you have a question, or would you like to make a comment?
I did. I believe that it was Jimmy who asked the same question. That was, you know, can you have a started map with the current boundary lines for the 4 districts that you can kind of change? Because what was indicated at the beginning of the meeting was we're looking more for adjustments. Mm-hmm. And it would make it a lot easier if the districts are already there as a starting point. And then you could, you know, play around with moving the boundaries. Because I'll tell you, I for one am not a expert on this stuff. Mapping tools.
Totally.
Don't worry. And again, if computers are not your strong point, you could always print up a map, draw on it, and submit it to the clerk's office, and we can
answer that question, because I think you answered most of it. But can you have like a like a map starting point with the current boundaries, but that you can somehow move the boundaries as you're working through how to increase District 1, for example, which is what is the biggest issue here, right? Is that District 1 is more than 10%, right?
It's about negative 8%.
Excuse me, more than 5%.
Yeah.
And yes. Yeah, thank you for that question. Because we tried to make obviously the simplest tool we could. And of course, you know, as mentioned, if online stuff is not your thing, we're more than happy to take a paper map, or, you know, come to office hours and I'll draw it with you. You know, we want to make this work for everyone. But because this is as simple as you can basically go for a mapping software, right now it basically just allows you to turn them on and look at them. It's not a starting point, but we can work on developing that feature potentially if there's interest. But right now it's just as a layer to view it while you draw your own.
I'm feeling that there is a lot of interest in that, because I keep hearing, what if we just add this? What if we just add that? So that would be a great thing, I think. A great addition to this is to be able to kind of change the current boundaries.
Yeah, thank you so much for that feedback. And I'll bring that back to our team and let you know the feasibility of adding that feature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Scott with IT. Can I ask you a question? Can you turn on the Oceanside district's map and then trace those boundaries so that you make your own districts exactly like those, and then turn the district map off, and then you'd have the ability to adjust the districts? Is that possible in the software?
Yes, that's totally possible. So you can see here I'm down adding the rest of District 1. And I'll just, once I'm happy with that, add that to my district, press make change to district. And then once I'm finished with District 1, I can go click new district. And it won't have the same colors as our map, but you can give them the same labels. And so now I'm just going to trace District 2. Here, all the area that's in District 2 right now. And I'm going a little bit quickly, so you might want to go back and
Yeah.
just look around, but basically that's how you would do it. And then once you got your second district, name that too. And so I'm just following the lines there to make and then it will show you, obviously District 2 is in blue and my district is in purple. So I've missed a few of these blocks, so I can just click on them. But yeah, you can make your districts using the layer like this.
Yeah, I think this, yeah. And I think office hours will be beneficial, especially for our members of the public that don't have really good computers or operating systems. You could draw the map with them during office hours. Oceanside Democratic Club has their hand raised, and then we'll go to Kathleen Justice after that.
Hi, sorry, this is Kyle Bright. I'm logged into our account, so this is not on behalf of ODC.
Oh, okay, I apologize.
Totally fine, thank you for announcing this. So I'm actually on the tool right now, and this may be a browser issue. I'm using Chrome, but I'm noticing that when I try to scroll in to view my neighborhood in Peacock Hills, the map actually does not allow that. It auto forces me to zoom in on El Camino High School or that area of Oceanside. So if I wanted to zoom in on, say, Peacock Hills, that is not currently allowed on the map. And I kind of noticed that when you were zooming in on the map as well just now, it auto forces you to the center of the city.
Yes, thank you for that question. And again, obviously we can answer all these technical support questions in office hours or via an email, but just quickly, I believe you have to click the move map feature, which is the little hand, and that'll allow you to move around the map. So automatically, if you just zoom in, it'll choose the center, but once you move the map like this, you can go up and down.
So I am actually doing that. I did look at the guide and made sure I wasn't missing anything, just as this wasn't a dumb question, but I am currently doing that. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention that it's currently not allowed, and it may just be a browser issue. So I'm hoping it's not, but other residents may have the same problem. So in case anyone else is having the same issue, just wanted to bring that up to your attention.
Thank you so much. And I did not mean to, there's no such thing as a dumb question. These are complicated tools and I spend all day looking at them. So, we welcome any and all questions. And we thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I'll look into that more after the meeting and can follow up with you if you are still having that issue. Or yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kathleen Justice, you have your hand raised, so we'll go to you.
Sorry, got to unmute. I live in Seaside. I listened to what Mayor Sanchez just said, and with all due respect, Mayor, I remember when we did this, I can't believe it was 5 years ago, we were told when they did the new census that we would have the opportunity to make changes. And I think being stuck with the boundaries and just moving them a little bit because of population changes isn't really fair, because we could have made mistakes back then. And I think we did, especially in district, the South O going east. I think that was a mistake. And I don't think that we should absolutely say we cannot change it. I think it needs to be really looked at. And if you're really, the focus of this meeting was COI, that's really important. And having a district that runs down the length of the shore, to me, is commonality of interest more than going east. So I don't want to not be able to change it just because our mayor thinks we shouldn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on Zoom wishes to speak? Feel free to use the raised hand feature. Shelley, did you have a question?
Yeah, actually, I thought I had recalled, and it has been 5 years when we were districting, that it was there was objection to putting the entire coast into one district, Now, I don't recall, and I'm, certainly not arguing with the lady that spoke before me. And I can understand why that would be of community of interest. And I don't think that that was Mayor Sanchez's idea. I think that was decided on when everybody was speaking. So that was just my recollection is all I wanted, my comment. Thank you very much.
And again, we're generating feedback on the communities of interest. Anybody else on Zoom? Seeing no hands. Anybody here like to, any questions? Last minute thoughts? Yes, Terry.
You might want to just remind people, it's easy to add, but if you're gonna add, you need to deduct or subtract, and it's a numbers game.
Mhm.
And the ultimate decision will be by the city council.
That is
You
correct.
know, it could be difficult for a councilman to vote himself off the city council and not to be able to run. And that's why, and I know it's not gonna happen here, but we really should have had a independent
Citizens Commission.
commission like Carl's had.
Mhm. And that is a decision by the city council. We've opted they've opted to vote for this process. But thank you for that feedback. And that's the feedback we want to hear. I told people I want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. Whether you're like, yay districts or boo districts or Zeb, you're a terrible city clerk. I want to hear it all because that's what we really want to do is just get a really robust community input and feedback from people. So any feedback you wish to share, now's the time to do it. If you are still collecting your thoughts, definitely you can email us. We'll forward any information over to our demography team and use that as part of the feedback and the input for this process. Yeah.
I think one of the questions to look at is, are there less than 4,000 people south of Figueroa?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that you keep South Alabama Fire Mountain together, moving to District 1, but at the same time, understanding that the premise of this was to make sure that we were able to increase diversity and cultural representation on the board. So if that doesn't dilute the vote of the folks from Center Street and Posole, I don't see that being a problem for District 1, Greenbrier, and Canyon, and Apple. But is to look at, are there 4,000 people or is that 8,000 people? Because if it's 8,000 people south of El Camino Real, you're going to end up splitting Fire Mountain and the coast or parts of that community. So it's just really like a number thing.
And that's why doing the redistricting map online, coming to office hours once we establish those, we'll promote those heavily. And that's where you could work with our demographer to kind of adjust and see how those boundaries would look like. But also we want to get that feedback as well in writing. So it's part of our record because as the slide says, there's no definition of a community of interest at Oceanside. This is generated by the communities themselves. So we need as much information as we can from individuals. So I encourage you to go to office hours. And also I'd like to get your thoughts in writing so we can make that part of the record as well. And that goes for everybody else here in this room as well. Even if it's, let's go back to at-large elections, I want to hear everything. Or the city council, they don't know what they're doing. I want to hear everything. And that's part of this process is just to get and collect as much feedback as possible, but in a respectful and fair way. Oh, Carolyn Carringer, do you have a question?
Oh, I do, Zeb. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So the goal of this is community of interest, correct?
Correct. And then that will help develop, and Jane, you could correct me if I'm wrong, that would help develop the draft maps. Am I correct in that?
Correct. And then you have to balance the numbers.
And then we do have to balance the numbers as we keep saying tonight, it's a numbers game.
So we're seeing the deficit in District 1, which is truly because we have a lot of non-owner occupied people that do not live here. And South Oceanside basically has the same issue on the coast. So if we're looking at community of interest, I know one speaker said we didn't want to put the coast all in one, but we're the older neighborhoods and we're the ones that are being replaced. We have totally a community of interest, and that should be really looked at, just basically because our kids go to the same schools, we have the same interests, we're older neighborhoods, we're not gated communities, and we have a deficit because we have a lot of non-owner occupied properties, just like South Oceanside does. So if community interest is the goal, then putting the coastal communities together, because we're experiencing the same things. So thank you very much, and thank you for allowing us all to have input. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry, do you have a question?
Yes, I do, Zeb. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Anyway, in thinking about this, like what happened with District 3, the add-on there of Ocean Hills, it just seems so very unfair. And I'm really surprised to hear that we're just looking at moving around a couple of little numbers here and there, because I too was under the understanding that we would have an opportunity to make right what we didn't do right the first time around. And so I really hope that there's listening to the community on this this time around. I wasn't able to attend the other meetings when we were first doing this districting and all, and it ended up, we had a meeting at the end of all of it when all the maps were drawn. And again, that's how we ended up with this section out here in Vista land and non-representation whatsoever. And I'm just determined to see that it's fair this time. So
I can tell you that, and everybody here, that this process is going to be transparent and this process is going to be fair. And I invite everybody to communicate with my office on any issues that they have with this process, good or bad. If they have any questions, feel free to call me. I pick up my phone, I respond to emails, and we want to get as much information, Sherry, during this process. We want this to be a very robust process. So if you are
I
saying
agree.
that, hey, the east side of Oceanside, you guys share nothing with South O, I want to hear that. And if people on the east side say, hey, you know what, South O, you share some stuff with me, as an example. I want to hear that as well. A lot of people are not going to agree with everybody's comments in here, but the main thing is we have to be transparent in this process. It's going to be fair. And I invite you to submit whatever comments you want. Even if you say, oh, you know what, I should have included this. Feel free to submit multiple comments if you want. We get them all, Sherry, and we definitely have received comments from you and from Carolyn and Kathy Nykel in District 2, even though her next door neighbors in District 1. So we want to get as much information from everybody. That goes for everybody here in person and on the Zoom, because we're going to try to make this as transparent and fair as possible. Yes, sir.
Question and comment. So
Yeah.
about the process, community of interest input, when does that officially stop?
That would be February 10th, I believe. Jane, the question was, when do we stop collecting community of interest input?
Thank you. Yeah. So February 10th is when we, would love to hear from you by, but we'll collect it throughout the whole process. The February 10th date is just so that we can include that when we're drawing the first set of draft maps, and so that the council knows about it as we're drawing those first set of draft maps. As you'll see from the process timeline, after we draw those draft maps, there will be feedback hearings. So if you, didn't get a chance to put in your community of interest before that, you can let us know then as part of the feedback on the maps. So we'll take it whenever, but for our convenience sake and for the council's knowledge, it's great to know about those as early as possible.
So to build on that, I think a lot of folks are under the assumption that we're not going to do radical changes to the map. So they may not be here advocating for community interest because they don't feel like they are present.
remember when draft maps come out and you might have misled that didn't come to have to be ahead on it. I just don't want to see the process be used against communities who haven't come in because they felt like they wasn't hearing from us.
And that's one thing we want is we're really heavily promoting this and trying to get as much feedback from the people that can't show up tonight or can't show up on Zoom. And that's why we're having community meetings. Most cities, they're just doing their public hearings and that's it. Oceanside, we are doing the public hearings and we're doing the community meetings in each council district. So I encourage everybody, really promote this, go back to your friends, your neighbors, your groups, your organizations, and let them know about this process. But we're trying to get as much robust discussion and feedback as possible. We don't want to exclude anybody. We don't want to intimidate anybody from coming down and sharing their feelings. That's why I'm saying we need to be respectful. We need to be open about this. We need to be transparent. And also we need to be fair to every community of interest in Oceanside, because there may be some communities that we don't know about. And that's why we are out here doing this outreach, so we can gather that input. So definitely, please, I encourage everybody, go out there, share this news with your friends, your neighbors, your organizations. If you have an organization, anybody here from the city clerk's office, we're more than willing to go and talk. I love talking. I love sharing PowerPoints. I'm the PowerPoint guy at the city, so I love PowerPoint. So if you want a PowerPoint at your organization, I'm your guy. So please let people know. Oh, Lisa Hamilton, you have your hand up. Do you have a question? You should get a notification that should ask you to unmute. There you go.
Okay, am I unmuted? All
Yes,
right,
you
I
are.
wanted to just be clear that if we go in with a draft map during office hours, we can find out what the population changes would be with the lines that we have drawn. Is that correct?
Jane, is that correct?
That is completely correct. If you draw a map on a piece of paper, we can work together to get that on the tool and then we can look at the numbers.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lisa. All right. Yes.
I just want to emphasize that districts were established in Kansas to promote diverse cultural representation and racial equity. Currently, we have 2 minority majority districts. Redistricting can only enhance that and continue to promote. We should not move backward and that puts 1 minority majority district. So redistricting to me, we have to continue to prioritize. At the end of this, we should have 2 or more minority majority districts.
And that's what we want to hear. We want to hear that advocacy for that as well. Again, this is a community-based process where the community is providing us the feedback on that. So we love that feedback. Thank you for sharing that. But also don't forget, if you do have feedback, don't keep it to yourself. Write us an email, submit a public comment. So our demographers know about that. And they have that feedback to go off of when during the draft map process. And we'll have more community meetings after tonight where more people could come and provide some input. All right, I think, Jane, I'm going to toss it over to you for any final thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you everyone for being here virtually and in person. It's great to hear from the community. As I said, this is the first community workshop, so there are others and we're just getting started. So just echoing everything that's been said of, we want to hear from you and we're here for you. So if you have questions about the process, we are more than happy to answer them and help you, draw a map and figure this out together. So look forward to seeing everyone throughout this process or hearing from you throughout this process, and please get others involved. And yeah, thank you everyone for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you all for being here. Victor.
Will the next meeting on Saturday at Davenport be the exact same format as tonight?
Will the next meeting at Elkhorn Zone be the same format as tonight?
Yes, exactly. So we're doing these in different places in the city at different times so that different people can come out. So if you've been here and you want to come back to another one and give different input, you're more than welcome to, but it's going to be the same, essentially the same format.
And then the next one after that, the third meeting, will we have draft maps at that one? For the third community meeting, I mean. Or would that be similar to tonight? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. Let me just share the schedule again for the rest of the meetings. So here we are. So the next meeting on Saturday, again, similar thing, receiving input and testimony from the community. And then at the next hearing on January 26th, we'll present all of the input that we've received so far to council. And then we will receive direction from council on drawing what's called visualization. So it's actually one step before we even get to a draft map. We just start drawing some visualizations. And so we'll go over that and receive input from the council on how to, start drawing lines. And then at the next two meetings will be the same as basically these ones. We won't have those up yet until the public hearing on February 9th, where we'll show those visualizations and we'll begin the draft map drawing process live and in public with public comment and council direction. So after that third hearing is when we'll actually have those draft maps posted.
All right. Thank you so much, Jane. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all for, does that answer your question, Victor? Yeah, thank you. Again, thank you all for coming out. I really do appreciate it. We can't do this process without everybody's input. But please go to your neighbors, your friends, your organizations, and let them know about this process and have them come out, submit public comment. And we appreciate every comment that we received today. So, thank you. I could take this. Thank you so much.